Since the dawn of human agriculture, no plant has been as widely utilized as cannabis. As many as 10,000 years ago, we began cultivating cannabis for food, fiber, and medicine. Cannabis was thought to have originated in the Fertile Crescent and then moved around the globe with human migration. From Africa to China, India to Australia, the Americas to island nations, all have a long-standing history with the weed. Grassroots journey through cannabis time, depicting stories of people from ancient Egyptians to modern American hipsters and their relationship with cannabis. In 1937, the Marijuana Tax Act was passed, a historic event that would impact criminalization of drugs for decades to come. This law was passed in the midst of a very effective propaganda campaign targeted toward Mexican and African Americans. This law was also the beginning of criminalization of minorities that would result in our for-profit prison system, and was used as a means to deport an estimated 500,000 to 1 million immigrants, many of which were American citizens. Our first story, set a few years after the Marijuana Tax Act was passed, follows an affluent Mexican-American vaquero who worked for William Randolph Hearst in his venture to breed a new type of stallion. A white stable hand was jealous of Juan's position and uses his brother's influence as sheriff to plant marijuana in Juan's saddle and prosecute him to open up his position for himself.
Season 2 of Grassroots is about a young girl born in a small coal town in 1949. The girl had always been interested in nature and the environment. Throughout her childhood, she visited nearby forests and planted wildflowers with her community. She later went to California, where she would become known as Fern. Fern was an activist for sustainable living and a healthy environment during the 1970s hippie movement. She, and many others like herself, lived in a hippie community known as Hippie Haven. In this community, she became more familiar with sustainable living and grew hemp, which was known for its variety of uses, including fiber, medicine, and building supplies. Hemp, however, was still illegal in the early 70s. Fern and her community spent several long years interacting with law enforcement. Fern's battle for decriminalization of marijuana and a chance to live sustainably on her own came in 1977, when President Carter lifted the ban of marijuana.
Season 3 of Grassroots is Deborah's story. Dravet syndrome is a severe form of epilepsy found in children. Charlotte Figge suffered from Dravet syndrome, enduring more than 300 grand mal seizures weekly. A 2011 documentary called Weed aired on CNN, spotlighting Charlotte and her cannabis therapy that significantly reduced her seizures to 1 or 2 monthly. Deborah's daughter Bailey also suffers from Dravet syndrome and struggles daily, having as many as 50 grand mal seizures per day. Doctors prescribe drugs to control her seizures, but they leave her incapacitated, unable to walk or move. The drugs are also damaging her organs. Deborah stumbles upon the Charlotte Figge documentary and begins her research on cannabis as a potential substitute treatment for Bailey. Deborah discovers cannabis has long been known as a treatment for seizure disorders in children. In fact, the U.S. federal government holds a patent, which is a lengthy document with lots of research and evidence suggesting cannabis has many medical uses. Deborah discovers that there are more than 120 cannabinoids in the cannabis plant, but only delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, is the psychoactive molecule that creates the high associated with marijuana. And this is the compound responsible for the dangerous drug stigma so closely attached to cannabis. However, cannabidiol is not psychoactive and is the molecule in cannabis that helped Charlotte Figge. The family collectively decide to uproot and make the trek to Trinidad, Colorado, where medical cannabis is legal. The 5 family members live in confinement of the camper, and it is challenging, but the family connects with other cannabis refugees. Colorado welcomes the family with open arms and hearts to help Bailey on her road to recovery. They finally come to terms with the fact that if they are to have the opportunity for Bailey to have a normal life, they need to make Colorado their home, at least until Minnesota legalizes medical marijuana and they can go back home to their family and friends. Follow Deborah and Bailey, along with her father Gary and siblings Devin and Gabby, as they move across the country as cannabis refugees in search of a normal, healthy life for baby Bailey.
And then she's sleeping. And then Mama has a glass of wine.
piece of marijuana, and this document was a symbol of freedom and of liberty, at least for the rich white gentry. And time marched along. This plant that I refer to has been used for everything, from medicine to the American flag. And now it seems to me, somewhere along the way, things got messed up. Yeah, messed up. Oh, marijuana, gift of God to my brothers and me. Oh, marijuana, the government wants to test me when I pee. Well, some say a conspiracy. The petrochemical and pulp paper industries combined to kill the competition, government hysteria, monopoly, and conflict of interest with total impunity. Yeah, so if you don't buy the conspiracy, just look at the reality that your tax dollars go. Spray poison on the fields of a farmer in South America, and as an added bonus, your neighbor might be the proud recipient of that poison weed. Oh, marijuana, the government wants to test me when I pee. Oh, marijuana, a gift of God to my brothers and me. Marijuana, you can't legislate your own morality. Oh, marijuana, the government wants to test me when I pee. Reefer madness, chronic sadness, what is the half-life of bad propaganda? Policies failed, denied bail. You made him a demon, now pay for his trip to prison. Hard to promote the status quo, but what is the shelf life of bad legislation? The hypocrite smirks, it's a moral disgrace as he reads from a law that was written about the same time that he had his last original thought. Well, the men said he was dying, and the nausea and the pain left him wasting away, and unable to keep a meal down, so he tried everything prescription could obtain, but to no avail. The side effects were worse than the pain, so now he breaks the law to use the one thing that seems to help him out. And the people say, oh, he's just getting high. But not to change the subject, but didn't you ever wonder why getting high is a crime? Yeah, a crime. Oh, marijuana, a gift to God to my brothers and me. Government wants to test me when I pee. Oh, marijuana, government wants to test me when I pee. Oh, marijuana, the government wants to test me when I pee. Oh, marijuana, government wants to test me when I pee. Oh, marijuana. This is the part where everybody would sing along. When I pee.